Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to Write Your Light. I am Eva Andrea, and I'm so grateful you're here. This space is all about honoring your voice, your story, and the light that only you can bring into the world. And if you enjoy today's episode, it would mean the world if you liked, commented, or shared it with someone who might need a little extra light too. Your support truly helps this community grow. And if you're feeling called to dive deeper into your writing journey, I'd love to invite you to my writing circle, a warm, supporting space to write, flow, and shine together. And you'll find the link. It's waiting for you in the show notes. All right, let's jump in. Hello, my love, and welcome back to Write Your Light. I'm so happy to see you here again. And today you are up for a treat. You are going to learn from a master today, a master teacher, my dear, dear friend, Bruce Cryer. He's one of those rare souls that, lives and creates from the heart. And he has this amazing, creative life. His journey spans for like decades of creative expression, healing, performance, leadership, and soul-guided service. So I know that this is going to be so special. And I just had to bring Bruce on in this podcast because I know that you're sitting here with a longing to express yourself, with a longing to be more creative and to live a connected life. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So just to give you a little picture, Bruce has been going from Broadway to HeartMath, from music to mentoring, and he's also a great, great writer. So he brings such a grounded wisdom, not just from what he has studied and know, but from what he has lived. And I'm so happy to welcome you here, Bruce. How are you feeling today? Can you hear me all right?
I'm feeling really good. It's a beautiful, beautiful sunny day in California, and it's great to be with you again, Ava, and be with your lovely audience.
Oh, thank you. So let's dive in and just start with, when I say write your light, what does that make you feel? What does that mean to you?
First of all, it's just a delightful expression, and I'm not trying to just be making a pun. I love the expression, write your light. I think in my own journey, as you mentioned, I have done a lot of writing. I've written books. I've edited a bunch of books. I recently edited a novel for the first time. And the experience of taking sparks of ideas, the light, if you will, that's inside someone, a story that can become a light for someone else. That's part of what comes to mind for me, because I feel like as I've grown over the years and had more and more things happen in my life that I've had to adapt to and recover from and live through and whatever, a lot of things have occurred that I can talk about. And when I'm able to share a story in a meaningful way, it does give someone else a new light. It gives them hope. It gives them, wow, that sense of delight sometimes, or that sense of, wow, I could apply that you just said to my life. So writing your light, that's one of the dimensions for me, is all the ways we can create light in other people's darkness.
That's so profound. I really love that. And you do that so beautifully. So when you look back on your very rich creative life, could you take us back to how did it begin? How did this creative spark and your creative light kind of begin? Is that even possible to know?
Well, it was kind of a setup. I had two parents, and unfortunately I have to use the past tense. They had both passed, but two parents who were unusually creative, and yet their main jobs were not obviously creative jobs. My father worked for a life insurance company. You wouldn't think, oh, he must be creative. My mother was the head of the home economics department in her school district. So, sewing and cooking. Well, okay, that's a little bit of creativity, the sewing part at least. But their other lives beyond just the job, the home that they designed with an architect that was full of my mother's art, that was landscaped by my father, full of music because my father had a beautiful tenor voice and loved opera. I kind of couldn't have, it was everywhere. I mean, creativity was all around me, and my parents themselves were showing me all the time that, but it wasn't an overt thing. It wasn't like, we want you to be creative. They just created an environment where creativity was everywhere. And I was involved in even helping as an 11-year-old, helping with some of the design, interior work of the house. I actually got involved because they wanted the boys to get involved. So, but I didn't think of myself as creative. But I studied music. I felt like kind of a normal kid growing up in America in the suburbs, except that my parents were unusually progressive. They believed in peace, not war. They were against all war. They were pacifists. So I grew up to believe war was going to wipe out the human race. And like, why are we still accepting that that's okay? And but they also did that through the eyes of beauty and to create beauty. And so it just was how I was raised. It was for some years before I discovered that was a really unusual way to be raised. There are not that many people raised by two very artistic people who also believed so fervently in peace as the way. So, but again, I didn't think of myself as creative, and the process really started in earnest. I'd studied trumpet since I was 8, but at age 17, a series of things happened, and I felt like maybe I should sing. I'd never sung except in church choir, but I was just like one of the guys in church choir. I'd never soloed. I just was one of the, like, we did that. The family did that. So, okay, I'll do that. And then senior year in high school, I'm kind of being groomed by the head of the vocal music department. And after a couple of months of school, he tells me, "You're going to play the lead in the High School Musical." I had not auditioned. I had no idea what the High School Musical was. I'd never been on stage. I had never sung a solo. And I'm sitting there in the school auditorium being told, "You're going to play the lead in the High School Musical, but you've got 6 months. So I'll work with you a lot." It was even more, like it was probably like 8 months. So I was like, okay, I have no idea what you're telling me. I have no idea what this show is. I have no idea what's going to go on, what's going to happen, but I'll go for it. The months go on. I'm learning. I'm developing. I'm growing. I do the show. It was a marvelous experience. I didn't feel like I was very good. I wasn't like, wow, I've arrived. Not at all. It's kind of like, okay, I did that. Now what? Now what do I do? And things unfolded. I got recruited to go into a music conservatory that also specialized in theater and dance. And I got an incredible education while I was there. I got introduced to world famous composer authors who invited me to audition for their show, which was the longest running musical in the world. I was invited to audition for that show. I was invited to do it for the summer between semesters of college. So my summer job after my sophomore year in college was to be the lead role in the longest running musical in the world, which was based in New York City. And I was like, how is this all happening? And now I was also dancing, and I was a pretty good dancer. I was in a dance company. I was singing at a pretty high level. And I'm in the longest running musical in the world as one of the lead roles. Like, where did this come from? So I was just sort of, a creative process was unfolding in me without me saying, I've got to do that. I just said, I think I'd like to be on stage. Maybe, I'm not sure. I've never done it, so I'm not sure. But it just kept on unfolding. And as you and I were talking before we started the interview, I've a part of my life, I'm easy to just let it flow. Just go with it. Just go with it. Just go with it. I didn't even have to know why. It was just like, this is feeling good. Just keep going. And little by little, I embraced the idea that I was kind of made of creative energy. It took a while to get to that point, and it was really years later before I really embraced that idea that all of us humans are made of creative energy, or we wouldn't be able to create another life, let alone to recreate our own life. So we're made of that energy. Prove to me we're not. I know you believe it. I know most of your audience believes it too. And so you want to get that energy out in the form of writing, or in my case, also singing or dancing or poetry or photography or whatever it may be. But that's a nutshell of decades of a creative process that's been really, really rich and unfolded in so many ways I never could have envisioned.
Mm. Thank you. This is such an incredible story. And it really shows us something about how you were guided into your Dharma from childhood almost. It's like you just followed your passion, right? Followed your bliss, and then things just happen like this. It's quite incredible. Wow, I love it. The magic of it. And then your journey continued and you had an awakening journey, I know, also along the way. Maybe you could take us into maybe the moment where you did you have like a moment where you realized your essence even deeper? Do you know what I mean? Like where you had like this kind of spiritual opening? Uh, can you take us into that maybe?
Boy, there were really multiple moments of opening and awakening, and the reading of one of the classic books, spiritual books, the autobiography of a yogi, which I was reading when I was in my early 20s and living in New York City and reading all these stories, which were incredibly magical. There were so many. How is this possible? There's so many examples of this can't possibly be a thing that a human could do. Just completely blew my mind in terms of what was possible in these yogic traditions of these wise men and women, whatever they were, that were capable of astounding feats. Was one of the doors that opened for me, was just kind of opening to that possibility that such a reality was even accessible to us humans. But in simple ways, there were just kind of many moments. I mean, I remember, and as I think I've said to you before, Ava, that show that I was in New York City, I ended up going back in the show after I graduated from college. And so I did it as a summer job, literally, lead role in the longest running musical in the world. That was my summer job for 2 months. Then I went back in a year and a half later for another 700 and some performances. So altogether, I did about 800 performances of one show in the same theater, night after freaking night. And but there were times in the theater where I'd have these kind of not exactly out of body experiences, but I would feel like people are loving the show. They applaud warmly. They laugh. They're touched. But there are many touching moments in that show. It's a lovely, lovely, charming show. And I think to myself, am I really making a lasting difference in someone's life? They're gonna have a memory of this when you stop to think about a memory, but is it going to be alive in them 9 o'clock Monday morning when they're sitting at their job as a school teacher, or at their job as an accountant, or on the factory floor where they repair cars, or is it still going to be alive in them? And I had to say to myself, probably not. And I thought, well, I am a man. That I thought of myself as a man. I was 21 or 2 or something at the time. I want to make a difference in the world, not just entertain people. I'm grateful I get to entertain people. That's it. What a gift that is. And yet I realize how ephemeral that is. It's wonderful in the moment, and you can talk about it and reminisce that, oh, wow, I remember that moment in the show. Oh, but has that changed you in some fundamental way? It may have awakened a feeling of innocence and delight that maybe you will hang on to. But I thought, I don't think that's enough. And how many times do you get to be in a show that has all that message in the show? As an actor, there's a lot of things you have to do that, I mean, when I was playing the boyfriend in a disco in a commercial for a bra, I made a lot of money at that, but that was not exactly what I got into the acting profession to do. And so you have to do things like that to pay the rent. Right. So anyway, I think the deeper message for me, and the moments, even standing there this one night as I was doing my role to the audience and feeling like there was something deeper for me than just as lovely as this is, as privileged as I am to be in this role, there was something more to aspire to. And I think it was just a kind of a series of moments of feeling like there's a phase 2, and it's not going to be in the world of musical theater and TV and film. Ironically, it was to be in California, but not in LA, more like the Bay Area where I'm living again. So that, and there were a number of moments along the way where the deepening awareness of I am here, there's a purpose to my life, And it's not just about a career, even though, in fact, that when I stepped away from the musical theater completely, I had these thoughts of, why did I do that? What was that all about? I never wanted to be a theater kid. I never was a theater kid. I never wanted to be on stage. And yet I did it at a very high level for 5 years, had a certain level of fame and acclaim. And now I don't want to do it at all. I'm completely gone from it. This was, 50 years ago. And why did I do all that? And it mystified me for quite a while, like why I had gone down that path. And then little by little, as time went on, I realized all those skills that you develop to be in front of an audience, to sing, to dance, to be flexible when anything changes in the moment, like something happening in the audience or a fellow performer forgetting their lines, all those skills you develop, a comfort in almost any situation because you can make it work. You've had to do that hundreds of times. You have had to take a problem and turn it into magic, turn it into something that is full of life and delight. And so it all kind of made sense later on. And some years later, when the HeartMath organizations were starting, was another very profound moment of, you are here for the heart. You are a man of the heart. You are on a path of love. That is why you are here. And that was a very profound realization that I said out loud in front of a group of people. It was happening to me kind of in the moment. I am here for love. I'm here to learn about love. I'm here to share some eventually when I can, when I'm smart enough to share it. And yeah, so that's some of the journey. That's some of the.
Thank you. Yeah. Wow, it's very profound and so beautiful to see how it was kind of you were being prepared for the next chapter and then for the next, and now you are in a new chapter where you are bringing it all together in the most beautiful way. We will talk more about that later because I know that you are now kind of really, I don't know if it's the right word to say, synthesizing. Is that a way, or you're bringing it all together now in the most beautiful way for people to learn from you? And I think that is so deeply meaningful to see how everything has made you ready to give what you can give us today as a teacher, right? Does that ring true to you?
Totally, totally. I mean, I think all of us in our lives, everything happens to prepare us, and I work a lot with people who are thinking about reinventing themselves. And one of the first things I always say to people is that, okay, you may have to reinvent your career. That doesn't mean you're wiping out everything you've done for the last 30 or 40 years, all the things you've learned, your values, your skills. You don't have to reinvent all of that. In fact, that'd be a wild mistake. There is a foundation you have built. You don't want to, that's who you are, that you don't want to get rid of. But how it's playing out to the world may need to change. Yes, that's what we're honoring. And maybe there's really basic. I mean, when I stepped down from HeartMath years later, I was also grieving the death of my mother. I was also recovering from double hip replacement surgery. A year before that, surgery for cancer, treatments for staph infections. My marriage was also ending, and I was stepping down as CEO. Talk about transition, talk about reinvention. A lot was happening in a fairly short amount of time. And I didn't want to lose what was inside of me, the love that I had learned, the ways to respond to my heart, listen to my heart, speak from my heart, share from my heart. All of that was very much what needed to still go forward, but it wasn't in the same external format. I wasn't sure what the right format was for a while. It took a little while, but there was no question that the elements that had been being born in me through all of these different experiences, which looked like, wow, you've had a wild career path. And then when I added Stanford faculty to the list, like, what? This is what an interesting set of life experiences.
Such a rich tapestry of wisdom you have gained through all of this. It's amazing. So I would love us to tune in on a little bit writing because I know you have been doing express yourself in so many ways creatively, but since we are in Write Your Light podcast, I'm curious to hear, how do you see how has the writing served you throughout your journey, maybe personally, but also in your expression? You have said a little bit about it, but I'd like to hear a little more. What do you feel? What does writing give you?
So many things. I mean, I think personally, I write in a lot of different ways. So, because of all the years in business, I write as a business person fairly often about organizations and how to reduce stress and bring in more care into organizations. And so, while my heart is inspired by those kinds of writings, I'm also writing to an audience that is not as familiar with those kind of concepts. So, you have to kind of um, gently bring them into the heart is not a soft, drippy, gushy problem. The heart is your strength. It's a source of courage. You have to bring them kind of casually in. So that's one way of writing to a particular audience that I've enjoyed learning how to do that, because I know how many people are in those kinds of jobs and roles, and their heart is screaming. And especially after the years of the pandemic and feeling cut off from social interaction, and let alone income and family, all the things that happen. Um, so that's one style. When I was sick for that long period there 15 years ago, I started taking photos a lot, and with my little smartphone, now an iPhone 15 Pro Max. Yes, I have very good cameras now. But what I started to notice was that anytime I would take photos, I would want to, after the fact, create a story about it. Not an elaborate story, but just say something from my heart. It might be something about the political situation in the world right now and how we better be getting outside to nourish ourselves, because if we stay inside, stay locked onto our digital devices and read the next horror story from some part of the world, we are harming ourselves in that process. I think we should stay aware. I do stay quite aware, but I also get outside, get out into nature, and then write about it. And so I have used and I've been living now for the last several months back in the Bay Area, which is stunningly beautiful. I take photos all the time, and I often post, and often I spontaneously, as I'm posting, come up with what's the theme of these photos? What can I share that could be useful to someone else? So I kind of let the spirit move me as I'm kind of looking at the photos I'm selecting to post on Facebook or Instagram or even LinkedIn. I post inspirational nature photos on LinkedIn because some people say, well, this is a business platform. That's not appropriate. I said, oh, really? Are you a human? You who
Yeah.
wants to visit, you're a human. Do you enjoy nature? Do you think you should have nature too, or is that only for non-business people that we should even discuss something like nature? God forbid a business person should discuss nature. And so I'm kind of like needling people, like, seriously, come on. That just makes no sense. So I will post wherever, but with a message to kind of help people slow down and stop. And so then I'm purposely kind of being much more open in my language. I'm not worried about speaking to the corporate HR director, their language. I'm not doing that. I'm just like, we're humans. We're all of us that are scrolling right now. We're all humans. We're all dealing with way more anxiety than we want, way more feelings of overwhelm than we want, way more frustration than we may want. That's what's going on for an awful lot of people. The people who aren't dealing with that, it's because they're in denial. They're probably spiritually bypassing or spiritually denying there's a world going on, and it's not fun. And so finding the balance, I guess, is really my point. And so I end up, I find that the more poetic, if you will, writing that I do, that's more just reflective musing on the nature of life and why that particular garden with that particular lighting of those flowers uplifted me right when I really needed that. I really needed that burst of energy coming in from the sheer beauty of nature. That's a living thing that's giving me life right now. That's not a painting of a living thing. That's a living, breathing plant. And
So
that's
beautiful.
alive, and that can nourish my weary soul. And so I want to convey that in any way I can, through words of writing, through imagery that go with the words.
And I feel inspired to put links to your Instagram and Facebook in the show notes here, at least for the YouTubers. No, I can put that everywhere. So people can go and find you and follow your posts, because they are really like a breath of air. I always have that feeling when I scroll and I see a post from you with nature and some wise, beautiful words. It's like reminders to breathe. It's reminders to tap into our hearts. And you do that so beautifully. So thank you for using your writing also as a messenger to bring your wisdom out. Do you journal sometimes for yourself?
Yes.
I suspected that.
Yeah. And I guess I think with life in general, what I've learned is one of the things that I've learned is how you need to keep finding the right flow for every situation.
Mm.
I'm living in this gorgeous area now in the Bay Area of California. I was in Florida for 15 months, incredibly hot, incredibly humid. I didn't even want to go outside for 6 months straight. It was so beastly hot and humid. And that was a whole different rhythm of life that I went outside to get to the gym, to
Mm.
go into a sauna and a cold plunge. I mean, it was like, what kind of life is this? And there was no reason to be outside. It was just way too hot and way too humid. Now I like want to. I sip my coffee on the deck in the morning sun, in cool air, just like, oh my God, this is paradise. And so flows are different, and sometimes I'm more reflective in the digital journaling as
Mm.
opposed to writing. Other times, right now, I need to be writing. It needs to be writing. So I've discovered that I continue to flow and evolve as we all do. And if you think you're not, you may not be, but not because you couldn't be. So if you are in flow with life and paying attention to today, I need to sit outside and enjoy that sunshine, because tomorrow it could be foggy in the morning and there may be none. So do it now. Do it now. Today, I need to be reflecting. I need to take some notes about that thing. Oh, yeah, take some more notes on that thing. So I try to stay very much in the flow, and writing down my thoughts. However, I do that is a steady process for me. I
Mm.
have to keep doing it. To me, it's an essential to take it out of just the internal ideation, which can spin and can be kind of lost, and like ground it. Yeah, a huge part of it.
Mm.
And I'm having an interesting time also, because for business, there are times that using AI for writing is helpful, saves me time for
Mm.
business. I'm not talking about for personal Facebook posts or journaling or everyday use. But I think that's an interesting question for a lot of writers, because if it's always stuff from the heart that you want to write about, what good is AI? In my case, there's often stuff about business that I need to write about. And some of that I can get a little head start from somebody else,
Yeah.
an AI that can give me an outline of ideas. And then I can make sure my flavor is in it. I'm just bringing that up because I want to I want to always speak from my heart. I want to be in more and more situations where what I'm talking about is stuff only I can say. No AI, even if it's trained on me, is going to say it like I want to say it directly from my heart. There are other things, though, that I do also in working for companies and consulting and whatnot, where having a little head start
Mm.
from a smart AI to do some stuff. So I have extra energy left to do the real creation stuff.
Mm. I love that you bring that in. I think that is a big topic, right, for writers. And I've become contemplating that myself a lot as well, because I think there's something about, I don't think I would ever let AI write a book for me, because that is so personal for me. It has to be my own voice. Uh,
Okay.
I totally see how it can be like a partner in brainstorming sometimes, or seeing things from another angle, challenging yourself actually, or even helping a little polish with the copywriting, stuff like that, where it's kind of less important writing, like more, as you say, business like. So I'm myself, I'm curious about AI. I'm not close to it. I just think it's about finding that fine balance and always honoring your own voice and your truth, right, is so important. So thank you for bringing that up. And maybe our listeners can share in the comments. I would be very curious to hear, where are you at when it comes to AI and writing? It could be fun. I have been thinking of actually doing a whole episode on that, because I think it's so relevant right now. So thank
And
you.
I think, and again, I'm not promoting using AI, because to me, part of the challenge, I mean, I use it in certain practical ways
Mm.
that helps me research
Yeah,
things better when it's a business
yeah,
type topic. But I'm also conscious of how many people have begun to rely on AI, and you can tell.
mm,
I'm texting people sometimes, and I'll make a comment about something that I have expertise on, and their response to me, okay,
yeah,
you're not suddenly an expert on that thing that I have the expertise on. No, you actually are a jewelry designer, and that's not. And you can tell that they have put my thoughts into AI, and AI's fed back a response, and you can
yeah.
tell. And so, if anything, AI is it should be forcing us to go deeper. What's our real voice? Because more and more as time goes on, we're going to be suspicious of things being written or video. Now the video quality is so ridiculously good with
Yeah,
AI. It's like, well, what's even real anymore? And so I think I'm really partly saying, let's go deeper and make sure we're talking from our voice, because the environment is going to get more and more crowded with our AI generated writing and videos that's already happening, and music, and all kinds of things. And there's a certain fascination with, oh my God, AI did this. It took 5 minutes. Okay, great. But what about that? AI will never be Ava nodding in a warm, friendly, sisterly way to me. I don't care how realistic the AI may look. That AI will never know me in the way that you as a friend know me, and I as a
exactly.
friend know you. And so I think AI on the one hand can add enormous simplicity and convenience in certain aspects of our life. And so keeping it in certain places, not losing the ability to discern and just buying everything that AI says, like
Exactly.
it's Google on steroids, forcing us to go deeper into what's really true for us and speaking from the real core of who we are, not
Yeah,
just from some highly intelligent system.
exactly. Oh, I'm so intrigued by this conversation. This fascinates me a lot. Um, yeah, and I guess it's about what you say here, also how authenticity will become more and more important, and that truthfulness to our voice as writers is kind of it's gonna stand out actually.
Yeah.
If we stay close to our original uh, expression, and maybe even embrace the flaws. For me, it's like, I'm Danish, and I am very aware that I do mistakes, both when speaking and writing in English. But maybe that's part of my flavor, right? Maybe that's part of the Eva expression that at least the international people get, not the Danish one. Does that make sense? So it's like
Yeah.
there's something about also cherishing the perfect imperfection that we have. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that sense of humanity, this is a real person who has struggles. AI is never going to convey that.
Mm,
Not in a way that you can feel. And I think what's evolving in us as humans who are spiritual beings is we are growing spiritually, especially if we're on a conscious path to do that. But I think there's growth happening regardless. Kind of humanity is up. There's an up leveling going on, as there is all this wild collapse also going on. And
mm,
so we have to stay true to ourselves more and more and more, not like, oh and yeah, and stay true to yourself. Like that's the most important thing. And that's an evolving process, because what you're exploring in yourself is part of your growth. You have new perspectives, you have new talents, you have new capacities that you develop. So those become more real or more important than some of the old beliefs or old mindsets. That's the point. We get to grow. We get to keep growing. Growth doesn't stop. God never said you stop at around 30 and you just kind of coast, and then it's a gentle decline into decrepitude and old age and a terrible death. No, that was not the plan. The
yeah.
plan, as far as I could tell, was you get to grow. There's not an end point until you have the actual transition, but you get to keep on growing. And this is one of my things is we most people don't buy into that. They think the growth is when we're young, we're learning all the things we're learning. We're going to college if we do, or we're learning a trade if we do, and then we're kind of going at it now having to do in the world. You don't have time to continue to grow and learn. I mean, who's got time? You got to pay the bills. You got kids, and you got all the things. And then God forbid in your 40s or 50s, that thing starts stirring again. I've got to grow. I've got to expand. I've created a prison for myself. And if it comes out messy, it's unfortunate, but it can come out messy. And then you're accused of having had a midlife crisis. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, no, sorry, if it was messy, that can happen. If you keep something compressed for too long inside yourself, yeah, there's going to be an explosion. It could be messy, but and that needs to be be thoughtful and sensitive. However, the urge to keep creating is human. It's what we're designed to do. It's not just you do it when you're young and then you just coast and then you retire and then you get to kind of chill or whatever. I mean, it's like, what was that model of humanity that we all bought into?
And thank God that it's like that. I love that about life, that it keeps surprising us and challenging us to live on the growing edge. And you are such a beautiful example of that. I feel how you kind of keep reinventing or reimagining yourself and your contribution as well. And I'm also my heart also, with my writers that are listening here. I know many writers who are late bloomers, who are maybe starting to write a book when they are 70. And I think that is so incredible. That is like, it's never too late to tap into your creative assets and keep exploring that. So I would love us to go into just for a moment, because we're totally going off track of this interview, and I love that. And to be on a quest here with you. And I know that you have something new coming up that you are very passionate about. Would you like to tell us about that? I'd love for my people to hear about that.
Yeah. So over these years, I've spent all these years studying the heart, developing ideas around heart coherence, which many of your listeners have heard about from Joe Dispenza or from HeartMath or other people. And so that was my whole world for 20 years, and helping develop that, leading it for CEO for a number of years. And then I got sick, and then in the process of healing, this creative urge was coming out again. This was around 2011, 2012. And I realized I needed to sing again. In fact, I had a voice. I had a number of very profound experiences of like kind of strong voices coming to me. And I'd never really had that before. And then it was sitting in singing Christmas carols in a beautiful theater in Washington, D.C. called the Kennedy Center, with 2,000 church singers from around the Washington, D.C. area, a professional orchestra on stage, professional singers on stage, and a night of Christmas carols. And I had just separated from my marriage. I had just stepped down as CEO of HeartMath. I now had two new replaced hips. I was now free of cancer for the first time in, well, I was now free of cancer. It had now been about 2 years. And all this was going on. And the experience of being in a hall singing Christmas carols was life-changing.
Mm.
Partly because I was singing with abandon. I couldn't hear myself because there were 2,000 other people also singing, but people could hear me, and they would comment. They would turn around and say, "Who are you? Your voice is amazing." And I'm thinking, how can you hear me? I cannot hear what I'm saying. I can't hear that. I can't hear. There's 2,000 people singing. And the evening was just one revelation and moment of magnificence after another. And it was like, oh my God, you've been living in the mountains and the forest too long. You need to get down into the streets. You need to enjoy beautiful music and be around people doing, and all this was going on in me. And as I'm walking out of the theater, having been invited to sing at the ladies' church in Virginia, who sat next to me, can you come and be a soloist next Sunday at our church? I said, I live in San Francisco. It's still too far to come to Washington, but thank you for the invitation. As I'm walking out of the theater, a voice says, your singing voice needs to be heard in the public again. And okay, okay. And I reached out to this friend of mine, you've heard of Gary Malkin, and amazing singer, songwriter, composer, 7 Emmys for all his compositions. And we began a journey of singing. And he coaxed me into trying to do some improv dance. And I tried it, even though I just had 2 hips replaced. And it energized me in a way I couldn't believe. I was able to dance again with now 2 titanium hips. So that created, like, you can dance, dude. Go for it. Get in shape. Practice. Get flexible again. Get strong again. You can do this. And that journey began. And so I was saying yes to sing, dance, get your body back in shape. You're out of the dark times now. It's time to live. It's time to expand. It's time to grow. And I embrace this idea that you are a creative being through and through. You always have been. Now is your time to claim that. And so that process kept unfolding. I did an album of original songs a few years later. At the request of Stanford University, I developed a course on creativity for well-being. So all this was going on. And so that thread of kind of embracing the creative nature that I am, and that we all are, by the way, I have a few public examples of creativity. Everybody doesn't have public examples. That doesn't make me more creative. I just have public things. So you can see my creativity. I don't see the creativity of a single mom with 3 kids working 3 jobs, the creativity that takes. I don't see that. That doesn't make her any less creative than me. So that whole thread of my life was exploring and expanding my own creativity, but then sharing it with others, encouraging others. You have it too, guys. We're all born with this creative energy. We were told we didn't have it. Don't sing, don't dance, don't write. Too many voices were telling us that. That wasn't true. You had to learn to get past it. I'm here to say, you're creative. You really are. What do you want to do? Let's go. And so that is a big part of it. And then the final thread, and this is all tying into this course that you know about, that we're offering, that I'm teaching, called Healing with Heart, the Vybrato method. And Vybrato is kind of the latest phase, where in the last few years of all the turmoil from COVID, the economic challenges, the crazy political situations in America in particular, but all over the world, all the chaos, all the overwhelm that people are experiencing, and feeling like, especially now, we need more tools. We need more ways to release what's otherwise building up in us. The fear of our own aging, as an example, the fear of what's happening to aging parents, as an example, the fear of what's happening to our kids who at 10 are already addicted to their digital devices, or at 8. How do we deal with all of these inputs and not drive ourselves crazy, have terrible sleep, have terrible health, and then make lots of bad decisions? So vibrato literally means add a wave. It's a musical term. You in a voice, in a singing, you add a wave to the voice, because the tone sounds richer when there's a beautiful wave added. A violinist does the same thing when they twiddle the string to add a wave in the tone. So vibrato means add a wave to make it more beautiful. And so in this program, Healing with Heart, it's a little bit of heart coherence, the HeartMath years. It's a lot of creativity, that journey of mine since 2011. And now the latest is, how do we master the waves of life, the waves of joy, the waves of grief, the waves of fear, the waves of momentum, the waves of energy, the waves of the sea, waves. And it's something I've been working with for a long time, and realized I had gained a lot of knowledge and experience and stories and actual techniques that can help us deal with all of these waves. Because so many, I think part of what's so challenging for a lot of people, I speak mostly as someone living in the US, dealing with the waves of shock that happen every day, if not several times a day. You can't believe one horrifying thing after another. And how do you not completely shut off? How do you maintain your humanity, your compassion, without being just also overwhelmed by the waves throwing you up onto the beach? And so that's what the course is about. I'm not saying it's political, but it's about, given all these things that are on us, wherever we live in the world, whatever is going on, how do we muster our heart, our breath, our own movement. We got to get out from behind computers a lot more. We got to get out in nature a lot more. We got to move with joy so we can release some of these things and then be continuing to create the kind of life we want. Otherwise, it's too easy to fall into despair and resignation and just kind of feel paralyzed. So I'm here to say we don't have to do that, guys. Let's do it together. So this course that I've designed for the Shift Network, that probably some of your listeners are aware of, the Shift Network, starts on July 10th. July 10th, 7 weeks, and an hour and a half a week for 7 weeks, live on Zoom. But you can, if you have to miss, recordings are provided. So that's my crush. That's my current crush. Is this is the first time I've done this version all in with all of these elements in a 7 week process. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
I'm so thrilled about your program, and thank you for sharing both the inspiration for it and what it would do for people. I really wanted you to share about it here in our conversation, because I burn to support my people to tap into their creativity even deeper, and there's no one better than you to help people to really open up and go, become to befriend the flow and the waves of life and let it alchemize into creative expression and aliveness and happiness. And it's like, it's so relevant, it's so deeply relevant, and it's so timely. This course is just what is needed in this time. I can really feel that in my heart. So I would wish for anyone hearing this to go and get a spot and learn from you and learn to dance with the waves with you. I think that is such a gift to the world. So thank you for creating it. What would you say is like, what would you say makes it different than other courses out there in your perspective?
Well, when you talked about dance with the waves, we will dance every class.
Yeah.
And part of what's fun about Zoom is for those people who feel like I'm the worst dancer ever created. That's okay. You can turn your camera off. The dancing that we will do is not about performing at all. I will keep my camera on because I want you guys to know I'm doing this. I am dancing in this class. I am dancing, and I'm not shy, in case you hadn't figured that out already. So I will dance to inspire you. It's go for it, but not because you have to be watched. So you keep your camera on. But I believe that we're not moving enough. We have become so sedentary, and in some ways, thank God, you and I have had numerous times we have been on Zoom together. We've never actually met in person. It's still like amazing we haven't met, because I feel you're my sister. How could I have not met my sister? But thank God for this. And at the same time, we get stuck, and we're in this shape, kind of angular shape. And a lot of times people say to me, well, how do I get over the blocks I'm having with writing, for example? I said, well, when was the last time you actually moved? When was the last time you actually moved except to stand up and go to the bathroom? I mean, when did you move joyfully last? What do you mean move joyfully? Like dance with no one around, but just dance because you love that song, or skipping outside when no one is watching because you just like skipping and you kind of miss skipping. When was the last time you moved joyfully? And so we're going to be moving joyfully every week. But it's not a class about dance. It's a class about awakening the healing power inside you and the power of waves, and recognizing, what, when you get an intuition during your day and you feel stuck in any kind of writing or any kind of journaling that you may be doing, find that song that always moves you, or songs, and get up and move with it. Even if it's not a song that's necessarily a quote dancey song, a song that evokes something in you and allow that energy to move you. And again, this is not about a performance. This is not about anybody else. This is about honoring this energy that gets stuck in us, but it's designed to flow through us in how we write, in how we take photographs, and how we share with each other, but also in how we move through life. And too many people my age move like old people, and they bought into, I'm old. I should move like an old person now. And I'm saying, says who? I'm going to move as young as I can, as long as I possibly can. I'm going to stay fluid with life because that's the way to really live. Or I can just buy into, oh, well, I'm X number of years old, so I better kind of be droopy and kind of falling asleep most of the time.
Yeah,
So that's
I
one
hear
of the
you.
elements is the movement. And the other key thing is this idea of a technique that I've created called the wave of relief. And it turns out that our bodies are designed, there's a mechanism to release. Athletes do this before they do the forehand, before they serve in tennis, before they take a bat at baseball, before they do the gymnastic routine, before they dive into the water, before the race starts. There's an instinctual knowing in athletes you have to let go in order to go. And we've lost that. A lot of us don't do that during the day. Sometimes it happens spontaneously. You finish a task and you say to yourself, oh, thank God I got my taxes done. And there's a huge, ah, or I made it just in time. Yes. Well, that mechanisms of, that's a sigh of relief. It's an actual process that our body knows to do when we accumulate tension and stress. And the body says, let go. Well, that can also be a conscious technique. And I've created it called the wave of relief, where we're imagining as we inhale a nice deep breath, imagining you're standing in the tropics at that gorgeous beach you've been dying to visit for months. And you're here, you're finally there. And it's everything you wanted. It's the tropical breeze, it's the warmth, it's the waves lapping up. And as the wave comes in, you breathe in that wave. And then you just release. You just literally let go of the breath out to the sea. And the idea being we need to draw in more positive energy consciously into our bodies, but then we also need to release what's hanging out in there. A lot of us walk around with a certain kind of relentless, unspoken anxiety. It's a combination of things. It's not one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pick a topic. And so, in my view, we've got to every day let go of some of that stuff, if not all of it, as best we can. Clear it out, clear it out. Then there's inspiration that can come in to take its place.
Fantastic. It makes so much sense. And I can imagine after these 7 weeks that people will walk away feeling empowered, feeling healed in different ways, but also feeling ignited creatively and with tools to go with the waves of life in a new way. Isn't that right? That's kind of my feeling when I hear you talking about it. So what's not to like about that? I will put a link for you guys under the show notes so you can go and get a spot right away. And I would love to hear what it gave you to join Bruce in this course. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I couldn't recommend it more. It feels so divinely inspired, I would say. And Bruce, well, I could sit and talk to you all day, and I want to ask you a few more questions. Can we do that?
Of course, of course. I have a story to share that might be relevant to something you said earlier. That might
Yeah.
be inspiring to your audience. So, and it has to do with kind of following magic, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it. So as a boy, I was raised by my father I was raised by both parents, but my father is specifically had me recite the prayer of St. Francis, and not the Lord's Prayer. We were Christian, normal Christian, but he preferred the prayer of St. Francis because the opening line of the prayer is, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. And he wanted his sons, he had 5 sons, he wanted his sons to be peacemakers, not warriors. And he wanted his final son, me, to be raised with that thinking. And it's a beautiful prayer. It's not just about peace, but it's about replacing hatred with love and replacing darkness with light and replacing the need to be consoled with the ability to console others. It's this beautiful, beautiful piece. And I recited it probably hundreds of times as a child with my father. And it represents a very deep bond to this day with my father, even though he's been gone for 20 years. And throughout my life, especially in the last 15 years or so, the spirit of St. Francis has been very, very alive. And there's not time on this conversation to share all the times when I've felt in a dark place about a decision, I didn't know what to do. And I'd be walking down the street in New York City, and I'd look up, and there was the Franciscan dry cleaners or the St. Francis Catholic Church right there. And I would tune in, and I would just feel like it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. The answer will come. Just relax. The most profound example of the presence of St. Francis is the story I'll share briefly.
Don't be brief, please. Bring it on. We want all the details.
I was in Hawaii it was actually kind of a business conference, but it's a business network that were very spiritually oriented people. And I had been experiencing things about the prayer of St. Francis again. I had visited Assisi a couple of years earlier, which was his birthplace, and an incredibly holy place. And the whole town, it's kind of the Disney World of St. Francis in the sense of every shop is about St. Francis, and a little bit of it's a tad overdone, but in the beauty of being in the cathedral and going downstairs in the crypt where his remains have been for 700 years, I got extremely emotional. But it was gratitude from my father to introduce me to St. Francis as a child. Gratitude to the spirit of St. Francis, gratitude to the thousands, if not millions, of devotees who were like me, not Catholic, coming through, honoring the life of that saint. And so it had been a strong presence in adult life, increasingly strong. Here I am in Hawaii, Maui, incredible vacation. The last night of this event, 80 people, all transformational leaders, many of them authors, speakers, lovely group of people, some very famous people there. And as we're finally in the last night, there's this song coming on, and I'm listening carefully. I'm thinking, this is a Hawaiian version of the prayer of St. Francis. It's being sung in English, but the style of music is Hawaiian. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Every time I hear the prayer or I have a thought, I pay attention, like what's going on. This is not random. This is not happening randomly. So pay attention. The next song, I closed my eyes. It was sort of a meditation time. Closed my eyes. The next song came on and became this hypnotic chant inside me. It was all in Hawaiian. I had no idea what the song was about, but the song just kind of went on and on. It was beautiful harmonies. It was transcendent. And I was just feeling like something's going on here. Something's going on here. And at the end of the evening, I went up to the people managing the music and said, what was that song? There was the Prayer of St. Francis song. I wasn't actually that crazy about the song, but I love the prayer, not the song. But then the next song, what was that? And they gave me the name of it. And that night I downloaded it on iTunes. And I did not stop listening to that song for the next 72 hours. I had it on all night. I could not stop listening to it. And a journey began, triggered by that moment of recognition. The spirit of St. Francis is letting you know something is about to happen. And the next morning, I woke up playing that song on my headphones. I couldn't stop. The next morning, nearly all of my friends had departed. I was staying another couple of days. I go down to the beach, was lying there on the beach, and I felt this incredible, these waves of blessing, like the spirit of St. Francis, but also the spirit of Maui blessing me, like the warm breezes and the flowers and the sunlight just blessing me to the point of I was sobbing, just tears of utter joy and magnificence and this song. Didn't even know what the song was saying, but this song was just, I couldn't stop listening to it. And it just went on and on. I was just sobbing and tears. At one point I thought, I better check if anybody's concerned about me. There's a poor man who's just sobbing uncontrollably. I opened up my eyes. No one was paying any attention. It was fine. I finally decided go ahead, get in the water. And I dove in the water, and I literally felt like a dolphin. I never quite felt like this. I just diving into and then popping out and then diving down again and popping and diving down again. And I was fascinated to see if what would happen if I would still feel this thing with the song after kind of interrupting the pattern. I go back on the beach and lie down, put on the headphones. I'm fully back in this, in the feeling of the magnificence of life, and just, oh my God, the beauty and the blessings are just flowing and flowing. And I finally, it was time. I needed to go do a little something for work, and I took care of it up in the room. And then I felt, no, you're supposed to go down to that place, that beach. You know, you've been there before. 13 years ago, you were at that beach. You're supposed to go down there now and get in the car. It's you'll find it. Don't worry. And I've not stopped listening. It's still on me. It's still the headphones. I would not stop listening to the song just over and over and over again. Everybody's going to want to hear what the song is. It won't have the same effect on everybody. It was an effect for me, but so I go down to the farthest southern tip of Maui, and I'm just walking along looking for guidance, and I start to go one direction. No, not there. And then the guidance is just walk along the edge of the cliff. It's a dark, craggy, not a sandy beach. It was like coral from lava flow. It was at the foot of the big mountain of Maui. So it was a spectacular scene. And I'm standing there, and I get a voice, and it's like the voice of Maui. Like the spirit of Maui is talking to me again. And the voice is saying, welcome home. Mm. And I had felt this deep connection to Maui. This was my third trip there over the years, and felt like this is a past life thing I'm going through right now. And there was the sense, you have been here before. We're honoring your return because you're coming home. And I later learned from my own intuition and then from a psychic that I had been one of the European settlers hundreds of years earlier on a ship coming to Maui, settling Maui. But I was determined to honor the native customs and the native art and everything, unlike many of the Europeans who were wanting to, kind of erase it. And that I had fallen in love with a young Hawaiian girl. And then she died because of a European disease that her immune system couldn't handle. And so I had the grief of having lost her. And then as the story went, as I was told by the psychic, she reincarnated very quickly. And about 20 years later came back to me. And by now I was like the governor of Maui. But now it was like this very young woman, and I'm an esteemed much older man, that there's like that was not going to work. And I rejected her. And ever since I was sort of looking for her. Mm. And so all this was kind of, I didn't know all of this in the moment on the beach. It was still just huages of welcome home. Yes, this is your land. Yes, not yours, like I own it, but yes, you know this place. And that feeling continued with me all through the night, and then onto the plane to fly home. I got upgraded to first class. Still not sure how that happened. And I immediately put the music back on and started this. And again, the waves of gratitude and magnificence. And at a certain point, it turned to loss and heavy grief. And I couldn't shake the grief. And it took a while where I finally got the understanding through the help of psychic and my own meditation of what all had happened. But I will never forget that set of experiences. Mm. But in many ways, it felt like a gift from St. Francis to help me understand beauty in a whole nother way, understand what we can go through in our life in a whole nother way. And his spirit is so much about nature. I mean, he's so often pictured with deer and bunnies, and he's about the outsider. So that's part of my dharma, my choice in life. You, dude, get outside. You're supposed to be outside. Mm. And, but what about the sun? UV, get outside. St. Francis didn't make sure he had SPF 50 on, so get outside and enjoy nature, enjoy life, and enjoy the beauty. So many more stories, but that's one that I wanted to share.
Bruce, so precious. Thank you with all my heart for being so open-hearted with us and sharing such a profound mystical experience. I can only imagine how that must have felt, and the deep meaningfulness of that kind of homecoming and balancing and all that sounds like it gave you. And I can't help smiling because when I lived in Denmark 12 years ago, there was a time we lived in a kind of almost like a little castle. I don't know the word for it in English. And we wrote the prayer of Saint Francis with gold on the wall in the library, so we could see it every day. So I also feel this kind of deep connection to his prayer, and it's so easy for me to see how, of course, he is your guide, and that part, and of course you are embodying his energy with your love for nature and the way you bring nature to us, and befriending nature so beautifully. So this is all quite amazing, isn't it?
But it wasn't until the last 10 years that I finally translated the name of the city that I live next to.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the city is San Francisco.
Of course. That is so good. Now, Bruce, we are almost about to wrap up. I got to get you back here on my podcast because we are just getting started. I feel we have so much to talk about. But for now, I will ask you 3 weird questions. Are you up for it? Well, what is your favorite way to spend a wildly creative, no rules kind of day? If you have
Wild, no walls kind of day. Well, as soon as you started saying it, I saw myself outside uh, under a tree by a lake with like an artist pad. I haven't actually done this. I'm living in a home right now of an artist, and I've been a number of artist homes lately. I think I'm supposed to start getting into art, so that I wouldn't have thought of that. But as soon as you asked that question, I thought it would be outside. There'd be a hike involved. There'd be a picnic involved, but there would be solitude to just explore creatively, whatever. Not necessarily art. It could be writing. It could be a combination of writing and art, whatever. But it'd be definitely out in nature, just letting the spirit of life can direct it.
That sounds amazing. So, love that. Now, if you could host a dinner with 3 creatives or visionaries or whomever you would like, who would be at the table and you can go to all timelines. Who would you invite for a dinner? You can have 3 choices.
Maya Angelou, poet, artist, dancer, actress, incredible woman of courage and depth, and damn, I'm gonna be me regardless. So she immediately comes to mind. Partly because I was talking about him earlier today, but Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela, I revered him for decades, and then discovered we have the same birthday. Not the same year, or I'd now be 105, but the same birthday. And I was like so like humbled, like, oh my God, I have the same birthday as Nelson Mandela. Wow, I have a lot to live up to. Not that he cares, but Nelson Mandela. And a third one, Gandhi.
All the peacemakers.
Yeah. But they were their own people, you know.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like a great party.
Gandhi knew he was gonna probably go out the way he did. You know, and Mandela, I mean, yes, we see him as a peacemaker. Before he was ever a peacemaker, he was a fighter. He was an actual boxer, let alone could have been called a terrorist, and was, of course. But how he transmuted. And so I think in all cases, the ability to transmute their place in life or the circumstances they were in I mean, Maya Angelou, just the towering figure she became for humanity, in spite of her color, in spite of her gender, in spite of her height. I mean, she was a large woman too. She's like, damn, watch out, be careful. And Mandela was also very tall. Gandhi, tiny little guy. It's not a bad side. Anyway, those three, I think they would be
Yeah.
fast.
Awesome. Yeah. I would like to sneak in and be we say a butterfly on the wall. It's that Danish expression in that dinner party. I'm sure it will be an amazing conversation. Now, I would love to hear if there's a word that you have a crush on at the moment.
A word that I have a crush on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it'd be too obvious to say vibrato, although that's true because the word vibrato, it has a sound. It sounds good. Vibrato. It could be an X-Men character. I am vibrato. I harmonize your life. It sounds like you can't use the word and not say that it's got a great vibe. You can't not say that. Vibrato. But there's just something about the actual sonics of the word vibrato that has, and yeah, I'm kind of attached to the word because I'm calling my course that, but I think it has as I've shared it with people without even knowing what it meant. Ooh, I like that. It just sounds good. It has a good vibe.
Totally. Fantastic. Now, Bruce, this has been so rich and profound, and I can't believe how the time has been flying. Do you have a closing word, a last thing you would like to share, maybe a little encouragement to our listeners?
Hmm. I think we all need encouragement these days. We all need to be reminded, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening to Ava, both of which are obviously true, you wouldn't be hearing me say these things. You have a beautiful heart. You wouldn't have been attracted to Ava if you didn't have a beautiful heart. You probably forget that. You probably are hard on yourself. You probably wear the weight of the world on you not more than you should, but without enough recognition of what a good person you are. It's easy to feel horrified by a lot of what's going on in the world and to feel sad and just grief stricken. It's easy to feel that. And remember, you wouldn't be feeling those things if you weren't a very good person with a beautiful heart.
Wow. I'm so moved. Thank you. What a beautiful encouragement. And I agree. Thank you. Thank you so much for this moment in time. Thank you for taking us with you in your creative, beautiful journey. Thank you for creating Vybrato and this amazing experience for people. And well, thank you for being a channel for peace and for the light and the love that you speak of so beautifully. I appreciate you. I love you, and I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Ava. Thank you so much. It's always a delight to see you. Always a delight to hear your expressions because you talk about writing your light. I mean, you embody so much light. You and I have had so many interactions that were absolutely delightful. And I feel honored and privileged to know you and to now be talking to some of your peeps.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
A
Bye.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here with us. And if you want to have a meeting with your divine muse, go to my page www.eva-andrea.com for a guided writing meditation loved by thousands over the years. Thank you for listening, everyone. Share this episode with your friends and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. So much love.